let's legalize sex work in America. I know it's a big step from where we are now because not only are we skipping over um, decriminalization of prostitution, we are just going straight to legalizing and regulating it. But I think that legalizing sex work can make sex trafficking much better and much less of a problem, and I believe that it can increase the safety of women in the field. So, according to the American Psychological Association, the number one most targeted group of people for sexual trafficking is women and girls. And then the number one race is Native Americans. I am a woman. I am Native American. So this concern has been prevalent in my life ever since I was a young child. I've seen many movements of where are my people, where are my women from Native Americans, and so it's always been on the kind of the back of my head whenever I walk somewhere by myself or it's dark outside and I need to run to my car. So I understand the fear and I understand the severity of the problem of sex trafficking for women. So I think that we can redirect the attention from sex trafficking to a safer and more easily available option to help mitigate those women that are being taken. So let's think of sex in America as in terms of supply and demand. To have a healthy relationship, you have to have a little bit of push and pull between both. In America, we have zero push and pull. We have zero supply of sex in America legally, and we have tons of demand. Sex is just a natural human thing that every person wants or does, unless you're in the very small percentage of people that's asexual. Kudos to them, there's just not a lot of them. So, with this, I think if we create a supply, an easily obtained, ethical, and sustainable supply of sex in America, that we can redirect the attention from sex trafficking. So if we think about, let's say that sex work is already legalized in America. Let's just say that it's already legalized. We have IDs. We can have IDs. We can have permits. We can have waivers signed by both the client and the worker stating what they're consenting to, that they are aware they're consenting to this, and acknowledging the possible dangers of committing sex acts with someone that they don't know. We can have cameras in all the brothels, sign in guest books / customer books, so that way you can keep track of who is in the club, whether they're paying for sex or just visiting one of the workers. They should still have to sign in. And then each room that has a worker assigned to it can have a bodyguard, just as like a third party to help a worker or a client. All of these things can aid in decreasing the chances of something non-consensual happening, and in the chance that something non-consensual does happen, we have all of the tools and resources to help get them justice in court. So I know that was a lot of hypotheticals. I know that was a lot of ifs, a lot of this could be. So I want to talk to you about the Netherlands red light district. They are a country that is famous for their red light district, as they legalized prostitution a while ago. And they have implemented lots of rules for their workers. They have to have IDs and permits, and they have to be 21 to obtain the permit. Without the permit, they cannot legally sell sex work, and this holds them and the client accountable. So if the client knows that they're working with someone who is not of age, they are liable, and so is the worker. This gives no benefit or reward to either the client or the worker. They have leaving the life programs. So for anyone that was previously in the field or just joins the field and wants to leave, if they are not having a good time or if they don't want to be in this industry anymore, they have programs to help aid these people to easily and smoothly transition into a new life, into a new career. Because while it is legal, it is stigmatized by society, but I think that legalizing it can be rid that stigmatization and can help progress the country. So another thing that I would like to talk about is how with all of these jobs that are being created, there could be a slight economic boom as well. We need the bodyguards, we need the workers, we need people to manage the buildings, we need people to manage security, and we need people to manage just to do maintenance and around the rooms and stuff like that. With all of these jobs created, we can provide so many people with a means of having an income unrelated. Well, it's still related, but they don't even have to be the worker. They can just work in the industry. And I think that that is a really helpful opportunity, especially for those who are struggling to find work in America. So from that, I would like to move on to the most basic argument ever, which is freedom of choice. I believe that people should be allowed to choose if they want to sell their body for sex or not, or for money or not. So I know that this is overplayed. It's talked about in most arguments, but it does hold some water. I think people should be able to choose what they're doing with their body, with requirements and regulations, of course. And I don't think that it is unjust to regulate this either, because if we take a look at the food industry, the food handling industry, in Oklahoma, you have to have a permit to handle food, a food handler's permit. And while they are working and they are selling their services in the food industry for money, they still have to have the permit and they still have to do orientation to be able to handle food in Oklahoma. So I think that regulating this and being trained or having a permit in America is a really good option to help with the safety of the industry. So I am a Generation Z human being, and so I urge my peers and I urge my generation to take this into consideration in future voting matters. Our whole generation is famous for social justice and being progressive. I believe that this is one of the next steps that we need to be taking to progressing our country and making things safe and equal for everyone. This is a job that is stigmatized, and it is a job that is not even available legally in America. And I think that's wrong, and I think that we need to change that. So I would help move that forward if that's what we want. So some questions that I was asked is this something that is able to be regulated? I believe that wholeheartedly that it can be regulated. It's regulated in the Netherlands pretty successfully, and we have a red light district in Las Vegas that is semi-famous, and it is also regulated, but I think we could do better. Another question I was asked was, do you think that legalizing prostitution will lead to younger children having a goal of being a prostitute? And yeah, I do think that's definitely a possibility, but I don't see what's so wrong with it. Some children already believe that they want to be a stripper when they grow up, so it's really not that far off the mark. And obviously, if you're a child, you can't make that decision when you're 10. You will have to wait until you're 21 to decide that. And most of the time before then, children are going to college or they are figuring out jobs by the time they're 18. So even if they did idolize it, and even if they still want to do that, I think it's perfectly fine. And I think that if they do want to be a prostitute when they grow up, more power to them. It's your life, it's your job, you pick it. I have another question is there a concern about STDs? I definitely think that's a concern, and I do think that's a factor. Just like with any job, there is a risk. There's risks involved. I think that all workers should be screened monthly, a full STD panel, and bring their results into their club, proving that they're clean. Or if they're not clean, they can take medicine to be better, or they can let's say it's a more serious STD like HIV. They can post that or make it publicly known that they have HIV, and if people still wish to work with them, then they can still have a job like that. So yeah, thank you for listening to me today, and let's legalize sex work in America.